Kingpin's collider tears a wound in the dimensional wall. On the other side, Viltrumites, a civilization that has already crushed 100 worlds, and now they're pressing through into ours. Miguel O'Hara built the Spider Society for exactly this: bag them, tag them, and send them home. But no strike team has ever tried to bag something that can punch through a planet. Can the Spider Society hold the breach, or does the multiverse fall? To see how this conflict starts, we have to look at the fallout of Kingpin's collider on Earth 1610. The explosion didn't just pull a few spider variants across space, it severely weakened the barriers between dimensions in that specific sector. Miguel O'Hara's scanners usually patch the weak spots, but one instability expanded far beyond Miguel's network, reaching out into the dark space between multiverses. It breached the walls of a different reality, the Invincible universe. On the other side, a Viltrumite scout named Lucan patrols an empty sector of space. His ship's computer picks up a strange energy spike. Lucan leaves his pilot seat to investigate. He doesn't find a cloaked ship. He finds a glowing tear floating in the vacuum. Viltrumites don't fear the unknown. Trusting his indestructible body, Lucan flies straight through the glowing energy. He emerges in the sky above a city. This is Earth 42, a world the Spider Society knows well because it lacks a Spider-Man to protect it. Instead, the Sinister Six cartel run the streets. Lucan hovers in the clouds, scanning the city below. He sees a world full of resources, but he also notices a major weakness. They don't have a unified defense system. They don't have orbital cannons. They just have scattered crime syndicates. Lucan decides he needs hard facts. He drops into the city center and lands in an armored convoy belonging to the cartel. He crushes a transport truck's roof under his boots. The cartel's mercenaries open fire. Heavy machine guns and explosive rounds bounce off Lucan's chest. He doesn't even blink. Moving faster than the speed of sound, he tears through the mercenaries. He snaps their weapons, breaks their armor, and eliminates their entire crew in seconds. Lucan stops and looks at the destruction. The defenders here are weak, but the planet itself is a gold mine. He flies back into the sky, leaves the atmosphere, and returns through the portal. He opens a communication line to the Viltrumite Empire, reporting directly to Grand Regent Thrag. Lucan uploads the combat data, proving this new Earth can't stop a Viltrumite invasion. Thrag looks at this portal as a prime military target. The Empire is stretched thin, and space travel takes years, but Lucan just handed Thrag a doorway that bypasses space travel entirely. Thrag smiles, ordering a vanguard to prepare for deployment. Back in Nueva York, the Spider Society's alarms finally trigger. The dimensional servers detect a massive unauthorized breach on Earth 42. Miguel O'Hara pulls up the surveillance monitors. He expects to see a displaced villain wreaking havoc. Instead, he watches security footage of two new figures, Conquest and Anissa, arriving on Earth 42. They don't just rob banks, they fly straight through the cartel's reinforced strongholds, leveling city blocks without slowing down. Miguel's computers analyze the combat data. The results silence the command center. The invaders are stronger, faster, and tougher than any Spider-Man. A single punch from one of these aliens could kill a spider instantly. Miguel realizes standard containment protocols won't work. He locks down Earth 42 and calls an emergency war council with Peter B. Parker, Jessica Drew, and Gwen Stacy. Peter B. stares at the footage. He'd been one step from a clean exit, one step from going home to Mayday, and now this. He shakes his head slowly. We can't just web them up. They'll snap the lines by flexing. Miguel agrees. They possess zero physical weaknesses we can exploit, but they fight like blunt instruments. They move in straight lines. They rely on overwhelming forward momentum. Gwen leans over the table, listening to this conversation. Miguel knows dodging isn't enough. They need a way to actually stop the invaders. He orders the tech division to start building countermeasures. Meanwhile, Gwen volunteers for a stealth mission. She'll track the portal back to the invaders' home universe and figure out what they're dealing with. Down in the lowest levels of headquarters, the tech labs are in total chaos. Obi, Pavitr, and Margot work around the clock, knowing standard webbing simply won't stop these new aliens. Pavitr and Margot focus entirely on altering the basic chemical makeup of the society's web fluid. The first 3 test batches snap on contact with the training dummies. The 4th batch, Margot throws at the wall herself just to see what happens. It holds for about a second, and then shreds apart. She goes back to the formula. After dozens of failed tests, they finally land on a hyperdense polymer reinforced with microscopic carbon nanotubes. The new fluid is thick and heavy and shines like metal when it hits the air. It's designed specifically to absorb heavy kinetic energy rather than snap under pressure. But Miguel O'Hara knows the hard truth when he inspects the web shooters. He looks at the reinforced gear and tells the team it won't hold a Viltrumite forever. It'll hold them for maybe 3 seconds, Miguel explains. But 3 seconds is all we need to set up a counterattack. We aren't trying to capture them anymore. We're just trying to survive. Across the room, Obi focuses on the offensive side of the war. If the spiders can't punch the aliens without breaking their own hands, they have to attack the invaders' senses. Obi modifies his guitar and amps, rewiring the speakers to act as sonic emitters. He also designs sonic grenades for the ground strike teams. The spheres look like modified guitar pedals, but they pack enough force to shatter bulletproof glass. He holds one up in the light, looked at Miguel, and said the Spider Society just funded the world's most dangerous demo tape. Miguel did not laugh. The tech team doesn't know for sure if loud sounds will actually hurt the invaders, but Obi's gear is designed to disorient anything with ears. They just need a specific frequency. While the tech team rushes to build a new arsenal, Gwen Stacy sneaks through a localized portal directly into the Invincible universe. She arrives in a city that's still recovering from a recent battle. Staying completely hidden in the shadows of shattered skyscrapers, she taps into local police scanners and watches public news broadcasts in in the plaza. She learns about the Viltrumite Empire's bloody history. She sees raw footage of Omni-Man destroying entire city blocks. More importantly, she learns about Mark Grayson, the teenage superhero who desperately fought his own father to protect the planet. Gwen tracks Mark down by following the emergency chatter on the police bands. She finally finds him sitting on the edge of a high rooftop, looking exhausted and beaten down by the heavy weight of his reality. She reveals herself slowly, stepping out of the shadows while keeping her hands visible to show she isn't a threat. Mark tenses up instantly, but Gwen's strange white and pink suit and calm posture make him pause. Gwen explains everything as quickly and clearly as she can. She tells Mark a squad of his people just invaded a completely different universe, and her friends are dying trying to stop them. She asks for any advice or biological weaknesses he can give her. Mark listens closely, shock washing over his face. He understands exactly how ruthless the Empire soldiers can be when they find an unprotected world. He realizes the Empire just found a new way to expand their conquest across dimensions, and he knows he can't let that happen. Deciding to trust her, he gives Gwen the most valuable piece of intel the spiders could ever ask for. He explains that Viltrumite flight and physical balance rely on a sensitive structure deep inside their inner ear. If the spiders hit them with a specific high-frequency sonic wave, it'll violently shatter their equilibrium. It causes extreme pain and immediately grounds them. Gwen thanks him, pulls up her wrist monitor, and transmits the data directly to Obi's lab so he can calibrate his grenades. Armed with the new intel, Miguel doesn't wait. He sends a coordinated strike team to Earth-42. Peter B, Gwen, Miles Morales, and a dozen seasoned variants drop through a portal. They find Conquest and Anissa standing in the ruins of a collapsed skyscraper. The Viltrumites look bored, waiting for a real challenge. When the spiders arrive, Conquest smiles. He launches himself at Peter B faster than a bullet. Peter's spider sense screams. He doesn't try to block. He fires a web line at a lamppost, pulling himself out of the way at the last possible second. As Conquest flies past, Peter tosses one of Obi's sonic grenades directly at the Viltrumite's face. The grenade detonates. The high-frequency wave hits Conquest's inner ear. His equilibrium shatters. He roars in pain, losing his flight path and crashing into the street. Before Conquest can stand, the spiders blanket him in the new carbon nanotube webbing. The lines pull tight, pinning his arms to his sides, but it only buys him seconds. Conquest flexes and the webbing begins to snap. Miles Morales drops from a balcony, turning invisible mid-air. He lands on Conquest's back. Miles knows a normal punch won't work, so he channels his maximum bioelectric output. He drives both hands into the base of Conquest's neck and releases a venom blast. The electricity surges through Conquest's nervous system. It doesn't paralyze him, but it staggers him. Conquest drops to one knee, which creates a perfect opening. Gwen and Peter open a portal directly beneath Conquest. The Viltrumite falls through, dropping back into his own universe. Anissa sees Conquest fall. She daps instantly. She flies straight up, moving out of range of the sonic grenades. Instead of fighting up close, she starts tearing massive chunks of concrete from buildings and hurls them down. 3 inexperienced spider variants don't react fast enough. The concrete kills them instantly. Peter B yells for a retreat. The team manages to push Anissa back through the portal using a sonic blast from Obi, but the victory feels hollow. They lost people. The Viltrumites aren't just strong, they're smart and they adapt fast. The spiders return to headquarters in Nueva York, carrying their dead. The mood in the main command center is silent. The med bays fill up quickly with injured heroes. Everyone realizes that normal webbing and standard punches aren't going to win this fight. They barely survived a battle against just 2 of these aliens. Miguel O'Hara stands at the main terminal. He doesn't talk to anyone. He just rewinds the battle footage from Earth-42 over and over again, trying to figure out how the strike team fell apart so fast. He watches the helmet cameras of the fallen variants. He tracks Conquest and Anissa as they move through the city. Then he notices a detail in the background of the fight. He pauses the video and zooms in on Anissa. During the chaos of the retreat, she didn't just kill one of the less experienced spiders. She stopped, grabbed the fallen hero's wrist, and ripped the dimensional watch right off the suit. The video shows her looking at the glowing device before she flies back through the portal into her own universe. Miguel's stomach drops. He calls Peter and Gwen over to the monitor and points at the screen. The Viltrumites now possess Spider Society technology. Far across the dimensional gap, Grand Regent Thrag sits in his command center. He holds the damaged watch in his hand, looking at the glowing interface. He hands a small device over to his top scientists and orders them to unlock their secrets. The scientists don't turn the tiny watch into interdimensional battleships overnight. The technology is too complex for them to replicate. The Spider Watches use advanced mechanics that simply don't exist in the Viltrumite Empire. But Viltrumite engineers are still brilliant. They work for days, taking the device apart piece by piece. They manage to hack into the memory drive. They extract the core portal math and pull the specific dimensional coordinates for several universes out of the database. The engineers plug the stolen data into their own teleportation technology. They build metal rings designed to rip the fabric of space apart. They tear unstable holes straight into the Spider-Verse. Thrag stands in a testing facility and watches a test ring power up. A jagged tear opens, revealing a new city in a different universe. Thrag realizes he doesn't have to send 2 scouts to a random anomaly anymore. He doesn't have to conquer worlds one by one. With these rings, he can launch a full-scale invasion across multiple universes all at the same time. He turns to his commanders and orders them to mobilize the entire fleet. The real war is about to begin. A week later, the main server room inside the Spider Society headquarters light up like a wildfire. Red alarms blare across every single screen. The stolen technology works. Portals tear open the sky across Sector 4. The Viltrumite Empire doesn't doesn't just attack one timeline. They invade Earth 65, Earth 5101, and Earth 8 all at the exact same time. The Viltrumites learn from their first fight in the city. They don't fly in blind anymore. They arrive wearing specialized combat helmets designed to dampen high-frequency sounds. OB sonic grenades, which worked perfectly a week ago, just bounce off their armor and create minor ringing noises. The invaders also changed their battle tactics entirely. They avoid fighting on the ground to stay away from traps. Instead of landing to throw punches, they stay high in the clouds and throw heavy debris down at the cities, leveling entire blocks from the sky. The Spider Society stretches itself to the absolute breaking point. Miguel deploys hundreds of agents through defense portals, but the counterattack quickly turns into a massacre. Most Spider variants are just street-level heroes. They're used to fighting bank robbers or rhino suits or stopping muggers in dark alleys. They're not soldiers trained for an intergalactic war. When they face a military force of flying, indestructible aliens, they die quickly. On Earth 8, a squad of 10 spiders tries to set up a giant web trap between two skyscrapers, hoping to tangle the enemy. Instead, a squad of alien soldiers flies straight through the thick webbing at supersonic speed. They snap the lines instantly and drag the spiders into the sky. Entire squads are wiped out in minutes because they try to fight like they always do. They try to punch the invaders, and they break their own hands. The outpost's portal goes dark shortly after. There's no signal, there's no response. It's absolutely quiet. On Earth 5101, Paviter watches the city crumble. He relies on swinging from tall buildings to move around, but the Viltrumites destroy the tallest towers first. With nowhere left to anchor his webs, Paviter focuses on saving people trapped in the rubble. He broadcasts a distress call to headquarters. The call cuts out halfway through and doesn't reconnect. Miguel stares at the silent channel and doesn't say anything. On Earth 65, Jessica Drew takes command of the evacuation efforts. Riding her motorcycle through glowing portals, she organizes a desperate retreat. She uses her webbing to catch falling rocks and her physical strength to pull trapped civilians out of the war zone. When a Viltrumite soldier spots her and dives down for a kill, she knows she can't fight him head on. She revs her engine and drives straight down into a dark subway tunnel. The alien flies right in after her, tearing through the concrete pillars with his shoulders. Jessica uses her motorcycle's agility to dodge his strikes in the tight space. She leads him deeper underground until he crashes headfirst into a speeding subway train. The impact doesn't kill the soldier, but it buries him under tons of crushed steel. This brief distraction gives Jessica just enough time to open a wide portal and push the surviving civilians through to safety. Despite her quick thinking and heroism, the spiders are losing badly across all fronts. Several major outposts fall silently. The Viltrumites successfully secure footholds in all three universes. They clear away the ruined cities and establish heavily guarded forward operating bases. They plant their flags in the rubble, and somewhere in Nueva York, every alarm in Miguel's command center screams at once. Miguel sounds the multiversal alarm. He recalls every surviving spider back to Nueva York. The med bays in HQ overflow with wounded heroes. Peter B sits in a corner, holding a picture of Mayday. He's not looking at the war maps. He's just looking at her face, wondering if he just brought a word to his daughter's doorstep. Gwen blames herself, feeling like her recon mission somehow triggered the full invasion. Miguel stands at the command center, watching the red alerts multiply on his screens. His strategy failed. The webbing isn't strong enough. The sonic grenades are useless against the new helmets. They are fighting a war of attrition they simply can't win. We need a new plan, Miles says. We can't just keep throwing bodies at them. There is no new plan, Miguel growls. They're hunting us down. It's only a matter of time before they find the coordinates to the headquarters. Suddenly, the portal alarms sound inside the main atrium. The automated defenses power up, targeting an incoming rift. The portal opens. Mark Grayson steps through, and right behind him is Nolan Grayson. The spiders tense up instantly, ready to fight. Dozens of web shooters aim straight at the two aliens. Mark raises his hands peacefully. We're here to help, he says, trying to calm them down. Nolan walks in right behind his son. He looks around the massive facility. He looks unimpressed by the technology, but he stays cautious. He left his Earth a long time ago, choosing to wander deep space alone after his failure, but he still listened to Viltrumite radio comms in the dark. When he heard encrypted transmissions about a massive invasion into another dimension, he realized Mark was fighting his own people again. Nolan couldn't let his son fight an unwinnable war all by himself. He tracked Mark's energy signature down, and together, they crossed the glowing rift to reach Nueva York. My father knows exactly how they think, Mark tells the War Council. He stands between Nolan and the angry spiders, trying to bridge the gap. He knows their military strategies. He knows their fight formations. If you want to survive this week, you need us. Miguel glares at Nolan. He doesn't trust the older Viltrumite at all. Gwen told him about Nolan's history on Earth, but Miguel is out of options. His med bays are full of dying heroes, and his strike teams are broken. He hates it, but he agrees to a temporary alliance. Nolan walks up to the maps hovering in the center of the room. He looks at the red dots showing the ruined spider outposts. He points out a brutal truth the spiders missed entirely. You're trying to save buildings, Nolan says. You're trying to save cities. Thrag doesn't care about your cities. He's just burning them to force you into the open. He cares about crushing your leadership. He's actively looking for this exact room. When he finally finds the coordinates to this headquarters, he won't send a small squad. He'll bring his entire army and drop the roof on your heads. spiders. Nolan's blunt presence shifts the dynamic completely. He provides the heavy muscle the spiders lack, but more importantly, he gives them a crash course in survival. He stands in the middle of the training floor and tells the spiders to stop wasting their energy on useless attacks. "You punch their chests and you break your own wrists," Nolan explains. "Our bones are too dense. If you want to hurt them, you have to fight dirty." He teaches them exactly where to strike a Viltrumite to cause maximum pain. He tells them to target the soft tissue in their eyes, crush the windpipe in the throat, and bend the smaller joints in their fingers backward. He shows Jessica Drew how to use an enemy's own flying momentum to snap their neck against a wall. Mark watches his father teach these good people how to kill. It makes Mark uncomfortable, but he knows they need this harsh reality check. Miles and Gwen listen closely, realizing their usual superhero tricks won't save them here. They have to fight like soldiers now. But even with Mark and Nolan on their side, the spiders know they can't fight a prolonged war. The math just doesn't work. Two friendly Viltrumites can't beat an entire empire. They need a permanent solution before Thrag discovers where they're hiding. Nolan's predictions come true less than 24 hours later. Thrag scientists finally isolate the dimensional tether connecting all the spider watches. They lock onto Earth 928. The sky above Nueva York rips open, countless portals appear, and hundreds of Viltrumite warriors descend on the Spider Society headquarters. Miguel initiates an immediate lockdown. The energy shields power up over the building. Thrag leads the charge personally. He hits the energy shield at supersonic speed. The barrier holds for a few seconds before Thrag shatters it. The ceiling of the atrium collapses, and the Viltrumites pour inside. The battle turns into absolute chaos. Spider sense means very little when there's dozens of enemies flying into a confined space. The spiders swing through the debris, trying to use the environment to their advantage. They drop the heavy machinery, collapse support beams, and use the facility's internal defense turrets to create choke points. Mark and Nolan fight side by side in the center of the room. They act as a physical buffer, absorbing the hits that would normally kill a Spider-Man. Nolan fights with lethal intent, breaking arms and crushing windpipes to protect the young heroes around him. Miles and Gwen work as a team. Gwen uses her agility to bait the Viltrumite soldiers into crashing into walls, while Miles uses his venom blast to stagger them, giving the heavy hitters a chance to finish them off. And Miles hates this. He's the most ethical Spider-Man there. He doesn't believe in killing, but the situation is truly so dire that everyone will die if it's not for him. Unfortunately, there's just too many. The spiders are slowly pushed back. During the chaos, a squad of Viltrumites break through the floor and enter the lowest level of the headquarters. They find the dimensional servers and the go-home machine. The Viltrumite commander doesn't understand the physics, but he recognizes a central power source when he sees one. He orders a squad to destroy the machines. Miguel receives the breach alert on his wrist monitor. He knows that if the go-home machine and the dimensional servers are destroyed, the tether keeping the Spider Society connected will vanish. Thousands of spiders will be stranded, and the facility will lose its ability to open portals. Miguel orders his core team, Gwen, Miles, Peter B, Obi, and Jessica, to drop into the lower levels and protect the core at all costs. They arrive just as the Viltrumites prepare to smash the servers. The spiders can't use explosives down here. They can't risk collapsing the room on top of the servers. They have to fight with surgical precision. Obi uses his guitar to play a low-frequency hum that disrupts the Viltrumites' focus just enough to make them sloppy. Peter B uses his webbing to create invisible trip lines across the floor, using the Viltrumites' own momentum to slam them into each other. Jessica Drew rides her motorcycle along the walls, kicking off and delivering strikes to the backs of their knees, forcing them to stumble. Miles stays invisible, acting as the team's closer. He delivers Venom Blast to stagger the soldiers. Back upstairs, Miguel realizes they're losing the war of attrition. Even with Mark and Nolan holding the center room, the Viltrumite army is too large. They'll eventually break through every defense. Miguel devises a final plan. He knows they can't kill an entire Viltrumite army, but they can trap them. The Spider Society's database maps thousands of universes. Miguel searches for a specific type of reality. He finds a dead universe. It has no stars, no planets, and no life. It's just an endless void of dark matter. Miguel plans to lure the entire Viltrumite invasion force into this dead universe. Once they're inside, he'll destroy the portal mechanism from the outside, trapping them in the void forever. He communicates the plan to Mark and Nolan over their earpieces. He tells them that he needs bait. They're the only ones who can survive Thrag's direct pursuit long enough to lead the army through the portal. Nolan looks at Mark. They both know it's a suicide mission. If they go in, they aren't coming back out. "We started this," Nolan says. "We have to finish it." Mark nods. He's ready. Nobody in the room argues. They all knew the math. Miguel runs to the main control console. He reroutes all power from the building's defenses into the dimensional gateway in the center of the atrium. He manually inputs the coordinates for the dead universe. Mark and Nolan fly up through the ceiling, hovering above Nueva York. Nolan broadcasts a signal on all Viltrumite frequencies. He taunts Thrag publicly, calling him a failure and a coward. Mark joins in, declaring that the Viltrumite Empire is weak and easily beaten. Thrag hears a transmission. His pride won't let the insult go unanswered. He's enraged by Nolan's betrayal and Mark's defiance. Thrag orders every single Viltrumite warrior in the city to converge on their position and annihilate the traitors. As the massive swarm of Viltrumites flies towards them, Miguel hits the execution switch. A colossal portal opens in the sky behind Mark and Nolan. Mark and Nolan dive backward, flying straight into the dark void. Thrag refuses to let them escape. He pursues them with the rest of the Viltrumite army, following blindly right behind their leader. The spiders on the ground execute their part of the plan perfectly. As the Viltrumites funnel towards the portal, the spiders fire thousands of web lines. They don't try to stop the aliens. They anchor the Viltrumites to each other. They toss every remaining sonic grenade into the sky. The Viltrumites bunch up, losing their flight formations, crashing into each other as they get sucked through the massive rift. Inside the dead universe, Mark and Nolan fly deep into darkness. Thrag breaks through the cluster of his own soldiers, his eyes locked on Nolan. But Thrag is smart. He suddenly realizes it's a trap. He looks around and sees nothing but empty space. No planets to conquer, no resources, nothing at all. It's just a void. Thrag stops his pursuit. He turns around and flies back towards the closing rift. His speed is unmatched. He's going to breach the portal before Miguel can shut it down. Mark sees Thrag turn back. He knows he can't let them escape. Mark tackles Thrag from behind, wrapping his arms around the Grand Regent. He uses every ounce of his strength to hold Thrag back. Nolan joins his son instantly. He grabs Thrag's legs. The father and son work together, fighting the strongest Viltrumite in history. Through the closing rift, Mark looks down at the ruined Spider HQ. Gwen and Miles are standing at the console below. Gwen's hand hovering just above the switch, not moving yet. Nolan is still behind him, still holding, still fighting. Mark looks at Gwen one more time. He holds her gaze for just a second, then he nods. Miguel drives his fist into the override switch. The dimensional gateway collapses instantly. The massive rift vanishes from the sky above Nueva York, leaving nothing but clouds behind. The Viltrumite army, Grand Regent Thrag, Mark Grayson, and Nolan are permanently sealed in the dead universe. The invasion ends abruptly. The few remaining Viltrumite stragglers on Earth are quickly paralyzed by Miles and contained in holding cells deep beneath the headquarters. The Spider Society is left in ruins. Dozens of spiders are dead or severely injured. The med bays are at max capacity, but the multiverse is safe. Miguel O'Hara initiates the final phase of his security protocol. He walks over to the main server banks and pulls up the dimensional coordinates for the Invincible universe. He stares at them for a long moment. Mark's face. Nolan walking into the room with his hands out. The nod. He thinks about what it cost to open that door, and what it would cost to leave it open. Then he deletes every coordinate. He establishes a permanent multiversal quarantine around their timeline. No portals can ever open there again. No one can go in, and no one can come out. He tells himself it's the only move. He's not sure he believes it. The Spider Society will never operate the same way again. It stopped being a cleanup crew that day, and it started being something harder. Something that understood that some threats don't get bagged and tagged. Some threats have to be buried, and you carry the weight of where you bury them. Miguel watches the glowing screens fade to black. Around him, the surviving spiders begin the slow, painful work of rebuilding.